Let's look at the budget implications as demonstrated by examining several scenarios subsequent to U of M receiving an award that includes $100,000 in direct costs earmarked for subcontracting. U of M's indirect costs rate used in our example is 55%. The collaborator is classified as a subrecipient. A subaward is issued, therefore the indirect cost recovery is $13,750, which is equal to 55% of the first $25,000 of the contracted amount. In scenario 2, the collaborator is classified as a contractor. When a hybrid contract is issued, the indirect cost recovery is $55,000, which is equal to 55% on 100% of the contracted amount. In scenario 3, when purchasing goods and services from an organization that are available commercially from the organization, the collaborator is classified as a contractor. A purchase order is issued, therefore the indirect cost recovery is $55,000, which is equal to 55% of 100% of the contracted amount. So, if an organization is classified as a subawardee or subrecipient when it should have been classified as a contractor, U of M fails to recover the full amount of indirect costs it's entitled to. In our scenarios, the unrecovered amount is $41,250. This chart summarizes what we've discussed so far. It provides you with the type of agreement, the classification of the organization, whether it's subrecipient or contractor, which department processes the agreement, what mechanism is used to request the contract, and indirect cost assessment. Let's now look at the characteristics of both a subrecipient and a contractor. Any collaborator that isn't a subrecipient is considered a contractor. The hybrid contract can be confusing because it can fall anywhere on the spectrum between the subaward and purchase order. The relationship will determine the form of agreement used and how the project is audited. The key personnel at the subrecipient organization may be a co-principal investigator on the study. This person may share programmatic decision-making responsibility with U of M, may co-author or write the study protocol, or is independently responsible for ensuring a portion of the statement of work is completed, may determine who is eligible to participate in the federal program, has performance measured in relation to whether objectives of the federal program were met. Stanford University's policy statement summarizes it well. The subrecipient assumes creative and intellectual responsibility and leadership as well as financial management for performing and fulfilling the subrecipient's statement of work within the subrecipient's approved budget. Let's look at the other end of the spectrum, or the purchase order. A procurement services contract or purchase order is a traditional commercial transaction. When U of M enters into this type of agreement, it is usually work for hire. Along with the purchase, U of M expects that it will own all the intellectual property, including the contractor's notes. There are warranties and performance expectations consistent with industry standards. U of M can expect the contractor to offer the products or services commercially to any organization wishing to purchase them, provide the goods and services within normal business operations, and operate in a competitive environment. These contracts are ancillary, or in other words, the organization provides necessary support to the study, but U of M remains ultimately responsible for the outcome of the program. When U of M enters into a hybrid contract transaction, U of M is purchasing non-commercial research services in support of the project. The contractor is not responsible for programmatic decision-making. The contractor retains IP rights for discoveries, provide input regarding the protocol, has access to the study data, and may even be a co-author in the primary papers, but U of M remains responsible and accountable to the sponsor for the program. Some characteristics of a contractor under a hybrid agreement are: the contractor does not offer the services commercially, the contractor provides services that are necessary for conducting the study, however, they could be performed by others. The contractors are substitutable. This is especially true with clinical trials. The contractor may have an investigator on the team who might participate in co-authoring papers, in providing input for the protocol, and participating on steering committees. But ultimately, this person does not have responsibility for the programmatic decision-making. The federal government considers these hybrid relationships as procurement transactions. However, the traditional procurement form of agreement isn't appropriate. Hybrids are very much a research collaboration, so a commercial general services agreement issued through the Procurement Services Department doesn't fit. For example, Wayne State University isn't going to agree to terms and conditions that, if they discover something while providing support services to U of M on a study, U of M will own the discovery, much like you would find in a standard work-for-hire agreement. Another example is when providing research support by executing a protocol, collaborators aren't going to guarantee or warranty certain outcomes. There are no guarantees in research. There is a myth on campus that if a contract is cost reimbursable, it has to be a subaward. This is not true. Another myth is that if the individual at the other organization provides input during the protocol development, participates on steering committees, or co-authors papers, they are a subrecipient.